We are on Oak Street. We do a long tour of Oak Street from Avey Field all the way up Oak Street to south. And this is one of our wonderful stops. This is obviously very different from the other stops. There's all residential apartments along here. And as you look down there, you see two dark brick, and then it starts to get lighter brick as it comes up. And each of these were built at different times, all about 1920 or so. And the street was really filled in at that point, very rapidly. Now, there's also two end pieces, and I'm not going to talk about them too much because they face onto different streets than Oak. So the brick ones down there, the northernmost one is the Oak Wood, then the Oak Hill is next to it, and they all have Oak in their name, so keep that in mind. And it kind of goes alphabetical order backwards. So Oak Wood, Oak Hill, and then two in a row, number 186 and 200, are called Oak Center because they're in the center. And then lastly, this one has its name on it. 204 is called the Oak, and that's it. So they actually are in alphabetical order going to the north, and that's very residential. And these were probably the last things ever filled in the historic section of this town, Oak Street. All right, now we're going to go to the next corner, and it's a stairway to nowhere. A lot of stairways to nowhere in Holyoke. There's a lot out in the parks and reservations of Holyoke. And there's one in the playground in Springdale, and there's one right here, the corner of Essex and Oak. And there used to be a mansion up there. It's no longer there. But the walls, and the grounds, and the stairwell is still there. And someone takes great care of these grounds. Okay, now we're going to look at the two homes higher up. There's one on the southwest corner of Essex and Oak, and that one's an Elizabethan or a Tudor style Victorian home. It was built for Arthur Chapin, who was the grandfather of the Parks and Playground movement of Holyoke. And I call him the grandfather because the next person to come along as mayor really got it going much more. But this person is the one that started. And Arthur Chapin was so successful as mayor, he started going to higher level governments, the Massachusetts state government, the federal government, and then he came back in retirement to Holyoke, and he wanted to get his home back, but it was taken up. And so he had to move next door, and he did. And so he moved across the street, and this is the home of George Tyner. He was the person that started the Holyoke Envelope Company, a company that made 1 million envelopes a day. And he got that going, and he lived there for a very long time. Now talk about places of nowhere. And if you go up to the very front of that building, you're going to find that there's a door on the 3rd floor that opens up to nothing, and there was never a porch there. And what happened is the person that owns the house, instead of putting a real framed window in place there, put a door to block it up. And so it's a very strange look of a door to nowhere and a stairway to nowhere at this corner. So thank you for coming on this stop.